2,522 dams in the United States are sitting in bad shape right now, and every one of them is a high-hazard dam. That label is not about size. It means that if the dam breaks, the people living below it are the ones who pay for it. 30 years ago, American dams broke or came within hours of breaking about 3 times a year. Over the last 10 years, the average is 76. And in January 2025, the federal board that was supposed to be watching all of it was let go. But here is the detail that tells the real story. There are more than 92,000 dams in this country. About 17,000 of them are rated high hazard, the engineering term for a wall whose failure is expected to cost lives and wreck property. The average one is over 60 years old. It was built for a rain pattern that no longer exists, by engineers who are mostly retired or dead, and it is owned, in most cases, by someone who cannot afford to fix it. In March 2025, the Association of State Dam Safety Officials put a number on the repair bill for the nation's non-federal dams: $165.2 billion. Just the worst ones, the dams most likely to break with people living right below them, would cost $37.4 billion to fix. That is the backdrop. Here is what changed. This did not happen all at once. It happened on a schedule, year by year, while almost nobody was watching. In 1996, Congress created the National Dam Safety Program. The idea was simple: check the dams, track the dangerous ones, help states fix them before they break. For a while, the system worked the way it was supposed to. Then the rain changed. Look at the 2 10-year stretches side by side. Between 1994 and 2003, the country had about 3 dam failures or close calls a year. A close call is the moment crews are racing the clock to stop a dam that is actively coming apart, opening gates, hauling rock, clearing out the valley below. Between 2014 and 2023, that average hit 76 a year, 25 times more. Same country, same dirt and concrete, 25 times the breaks. Brian Graber, Senior Director of Dam Removal Strategy at the conservation group American Rivers, laid those numbers out on the record. They are not a guess. They are a count of what already happened. 10 years against 10 years. The walls did not suddenly get weaker in 2014. The water got heavier, and the dams stayed exactly as old and exactly as ignored as they already were. Watch this next number, because it explains the rest. The grant program built just to fix high-hazard dams, the Rehabilitation of High-Hazard Potential Dams program, is allowed by law to get up to $60 million a year. In the budget year 2023, it got 0. In the budget year 2024, it got 0 again. $0. That is not a rounding error. 2 straight years, the one federal program built to fix the most dangerous dams in America got nothing. The 2021 infrastructure law set aside roughly $3 billion for dam safety. Congress then moved more than $360 million of it somewhere else. So the failure rate is setting records. The repair bill is climbing into the hundreds of billions, and the fund built to fix these dams is running on empty. Hold those 3 facts together, because they are going to crash into each other. Now zoom out and look at where these 17,000 dams actually sit. They are not all giant concrete arches in faraway canyons. Most are earthen dams, long walls of packed dirt, holding back ponds and lakes above farm towns, suburbs, schools, and highways. When they were built, the land below them was empty. It is not empty anymore. Neighborhoods filled in the low ground. A shopping center went up where the cow pasture used to be. The dam that was rated low hazard in 1965, because nobody lived in the path of the water, became high hazard the day the first house went up downstream. And in most cases, nobody went back and changed the rating. The danger climbed while the paperwork stayed the same. Here is how one of these walls actually breaks, in plain terms. A dam holds as long as the water stays below the top. The danger starts the moment the water rises over the top edge and starts pouring across the backside. That falling water digs into the back face, the way a waterfall carves a notch into rock. The notch eats backward, into the dam, deeper and wider, until the whole wall splits open and the lake behind it comes through all at once. Engineers call it overtopping. It is the single most common way an earthen dam dies. The other way is quieter and worse. Water finds a path through the dirt itself, a gap, an old pipe, a rotted root channel, and it carries soil out with it, 1 grain at a time, hollowing the dam from the inside until the surface above the hidden tunnel falls in. Engineers call that inside erosion, or piping. It can run for hours or days behind a wall that looks completely solid from the road. By the time anything shows on the surface, the dam is already most of the way gone. That one gives almost no warning at all. Either way, the result is the same. A wall that stood for 60 years is gone in minutes, and everything the engineers in 1965 thought was empty is now in the water's path. John Roche, president of the Association of State Dam Safety Officials and chief of the Dam Safety Permits Division at the Maryland Department of the Environment, has put the core problem bluntly. Most of these dams are privately owned, and a large share of those owners, he says, simply do not have the resources to fix or remove them. Sit with what that means. A private person, a small company, sometimes a homeowners group, legally owns a wall of dirt that hangs over the people living below it. The state regulator knows the dam is failing. The regulator has no money to fix it and almost no power to force a broke owner to. So the dam stays up, untouched, year after year, a known danger that everyone in charge is watching and nobody in charge can stop. This is where the story turns. In September 2024, the theory stopped being a theory. On September 27, 2024, Hurricane Helene came ashore in Florida as a Category 4 storm and drove straight up into the southern Appalachians. By the time it reached the mountains of western North Carolina, it was dropping rain on land built to shed water fast, where every creek runs downhill into the next, and the next, all of it picking up speed as it falls. In the flatter eastern part of the state, the goal in a flood is to move water out fast. In the mountains, you have to slow it down, because everything is on a slope, and faster water means more damage. Helene gave the mountains no chance to slow anything. The state's dam engineers later went out and checked roughly 40 dams that were damaged in the storm. 36 of them were high hazard. Damage ranged from small washouts all the way to full failure caused by overtopping, the exact way described a moment ago, playing out 36 times in one weekend. And that is not even the part that should worry you most. North Carolina, before Helene ever formed, already had 205 dams rated in bad shape, sitting in high-hazard spots, more than any other state in the country. The storm did not create that danger. It just walked straight into it. The damage moved in order, the way it always does. First, the small stuff up high. Farm ponds and private lake dams up in the mountains, the ones nobody checks, gave way first. The river gauges that were supposed to measure the flood were swamped and went dark in the middle of the night. One conservation director, who lives downstream of a broken dam, put it plainly. The gauge was so swamped it went offline, and they could not even fully measure what had happened because the tools drowned before the water peaked. Second, the towns right below the bigger dams. In Rutherford County, emergency crews announced the coming failure of the Lake Lure Dam and told everyone in the valley below it to get out. The dam held. The town of Chimney Rock, just downstream, was torn apart by the floodwater anyway. The dam holding is not the same as the town being safe. That is a lesson this story teaches over and over. Third, the city. The French Broad River rose into Asheville and swallowed the River Arts District, sending water through neighborhoods and shops that had stood dry for 100 years. Fourth, the wider region. Landslides, more than 2,000 of them logged by the United States Geological Survey, came down the soaked slopes. Roads, bridges, water systems, and power lines went with the flood. Whole towns were cut off, with no way in for rescuers and no way out for the people trapped. Fifth, the dollar figure that ties it all together. North Carolina's own damage report put the total at more than $59.6 billion across the state. That was 36 high-hazard dams pushed to the edge by one storm, in one state, in one weekend. There are 17,000 of these dams across the country. If you are finding this useful, subscribe. We cover the dams, the rivers, and the aging infrastructure holding back the water every week, with the full picture you need to actually follow what is going on. While North Carolina was still pulling itself out of the mud, something quiet was happening in Washington. On January 25th, 2025, following guidance from the Department of Homeland Security, every member of the National Dam Safety Review Board was let go. The review board is an 11-member panel. Its job is to advise the head of FEMA on national dam safety priorities and to weigh the big decisions that shape how the whole program runs, how states get help, how the dangerous dams get tracked, where the limited money goes. As of that date, all of its seats are empty. This decision looked small on paper. An advisory group shuffled in a routine memo. It was not small. Heather Taylor-Meisler, Senior Vice President of Conservation at American Rivers, said every day the panel sits empty puts human lives and property at risk. She made the point that this is a non-political body, the kind of expert panel that is supposed to sit above politics entirely, and that leaving it empty cuts off the one national conversation about which dams break next. The board could have been refilled within weeks. As of now, it has not been. So, line the pieces up. The failures are running 25 times higher than a generation ago. The repair bill is $165 billion. The fund built to fix these dams got $0 2 years running. And the National Board on Dam Safety is gone. Its chair's empty. In the same stretch, the failure rate is setting records. If you are wondering who is steering federal dam safety policy at this moment, that is the question. And right now, there is no clean answer to it. None of this is new, and that is the part that should land hardest. We have run this exact test before, more than once, and the results are on file. Start with the failure that built the whole system. Go back to November 6th, 1977, around 1:30 in the morning, near Toccoa, Georgia. The Kelly Barnes Dam, a 38-foot earthen wall built up over an old rock base, gave way after several days of heavy rain. It had stood quietly above Toccoa Falls Bible College for decades. Most people below it barely thought about it. The water came down a steep ravine, over a 186-foot waterfall, and hit the campus while students, teachers, and their families were asleep. A wall of water about 25 feet high tore through the dorms and a trailer park. 39 people never made it out. The investigators later traced the most likely cause to a slide on the steep back slope, tied to piping. That same quiet inside erosion. A small breach, then a slow collapse that grew. Here is why that 1977 night matters to a video about 2025. The Kelly Barnes failure, along with a string of other terrible collapses in that decade, is the reason the federal government got serious about dam safety at all. 1 month after the flood, the president ordered the inspection of thousands of non-federal high-hazard dams. The chain of changes that followed eventually built the National Dam Safety Program and the very review board that was just let go. 39 people never woke up, and that is what it took to build that system. It is being quietly taken apart by people who were not there the night it happened. Now move forward to February 2017. The Oroville Dam in California, the tallest dam in the United States, sent water down a spillway that began to crumble underneath it. As the damage spread, officials feared the backup spillway might give way and release a 30-foot wall of water onto the towns below. On February 12th, roughly 188,000 people downstream were told to get out, pulled out in a matter of hours. Not just the general public, but hospitals, care homes, and jails. The dam itself held. The spillway repairs cost about $1.1 billion. The official review found the cause was not one bad call, but a long, system-wide failure to see and fix weak spots everyone had the data to spot. Then, May 2020, Central Michigan. The Edenville Dam, a 96-year-old earthen wall, failed during heavy rain. A section of the wall, roughly 900 feet wide, washed away. The water it let loose rolled 2 to 3 miles downstream and poured over the top of the Sanford Dam, which failed too. Crews cleared out about 10,000 people. The flood destroyed around 150 homes. Damages topped $200 million. Here is the detail from Michigan that should stop you cold. Edenville's federal license to make power had been pulled in 2018, 2 years before the failure, just because the owner would not raise the spillway's capacity to safely pass a flood. The warning was on paper, signed, official, sitting in a regulator's file. It was ignored. A forensic engineering team later reviewed the collapse and reached a one-word verdict that fits far more than one dam. The failure, they wrote, was foreseeable and preventable. The result of mistakes stacked up over nearly 100 years. And the only reason nobody was lost at Edenville is that local officials made the careful call and started clearing people out about 18 hours before anyone was sure the dam would go. That single decision is thought to have saved 10 to 20 lives. 18 hours of warning was the whole difference between losing homes and losing people. Now push back further, past living memory, to see where this road ends when the warning never comes at all. On May 31st, 1889, the South Fork Dam above Johnstown, Pennsylvania, gave way after days of heavy rain. It was an aging earthen dam, first built for a canal system, later bought by a private club of rich businessmen who rebuilt it cheaply to hold back a resort lake. People in the valley below had warned about it for years. They joked nervously that if it ever broke, they would all be swept away. It broke. A wall of water came down the valley at up to 40 miles an hour and hit the steel town of Johnstown. Roughly 2,500 people never came home. It is still the worst dam failure in American history. The pattern was already complete in 1889. An aging dam, poor upkeep, ignored warnings, a private owner with money and pull, and a town below that treated the wall above it as background noise until the afternoon it came down. That is the whole pattern, across 3 different centuries. An aging dam, a regulator or a neighbor who saw the danger and said so, a money and rule gap that left the warning sitting in a drawer, and then a storm that did not care about any of it. Johnstown in 1889, Toccoa in 1977, Oroville in 2017, Edenville in 2020, Helene in 2024. The names and dates change. The way it breaks does not. Now multiply that by 2,522. So, the questions stack up in the dark. How many of those 2,522 dams break before the $165 billion bill ever gets paid? Which town finds out first, and at what hour of the night? Why did the country let the repair fund drop to zero in the same years the failure rate was setting records? Who exactly is keeping the national count now that the board is empty? And when the next dam starts to go, will anyone get their 18 hours the way Edenville did, or will it be Toccoa again? 1:30 in the morning with everyone asleep, the warning arriving after the water. Nobody can answer those yet. What is certain is smaller and more physical. Tonight, behind thousands of aging walls across this country, the water is sitting higher against the dirt than the men who built those walls ever planned for. In western North Carolina, the gauge that drowned during Helene is still offline, still not replaced. The repair money is still $165 billion short. The board's 11 chairs are still empty. And above more than one sleeping town, the water is leaning on 60-year-old dirt right now, finding the gaps, carrying the grains out one at a time, feeling for the single weak place, the way water always does,